हाउसिंग एंड डिस्प्लेसमेंट का इंडिया में, फिर है लैंड ग्रैब, फिर है अर्बन हाउसिंग एंड डिस्प्लेसमेंट, और तीसरा है कोस्टल एरिया, फिर चौथा है एनवायरमेंटल डिस्ट्रक्शन एंड द रिस्पॉन्स ऑफ NHRC। तो पहले सेशन के लिए मैं मेधा ताई को स्टेज पर आमंत्रित करूंगी। मेधा ताई, she doesn't need an introduction. She has been the face of the movement for environment, for housing and displacement, and she has been part of so many struggles, so many movements in so many decades. So Medha Tai, please come on stage and she'll talk about like the overall situation of housing and displacement in India. And Medha Tai, please. And the role of NHRC, with respect to the role of NHRC.
I know, as respected Justice Suresh put it, I'm not a victim, but I'm affected by the displacement and the struggles. It's a very creditable that the HRLN has taken up this issue, not only of the functioning role and mandate of the National Human Rights Commission, but also the displacement and its relation with environment, housing and right to life under Article 21 of the Constitution, I must say. I don't know whether I should speak in Hindi or English, because the next, that will take double the time, so I'll just stick to either. Sirs, it is very clear that the displacement is the issue related to which, whether in rural, Adivasi or urban areas, the maximum number of struggles and non-violent to militant struggles have been on. I leave out the arena of the armed struggles from my presentation because I belong to the other category. I also feel that displacement as justifiable because it leads to and it is inevitable for development is being questioned by umpteen number of people, millions of them, and rightly so. It is also questioned on the basis of principle of eminent domain, and it is also questioned on the basis of the justice or injustice in terms of the benefits that are given primacy and priority, and the distribution of benefits with or without distributive justice. It is also questioned on the basis of impacts, environmental, social to economic, and also the politics that it gives rise to in terms of the relationship between the state and its people on one hand, and amongst the various sections of population, whether those are between the urban and the rural, in terms of migration, or the Adivasi and the non-Adivasis, while the state is considered and declared as a non-Adivasi entity as per the Samata Judgment 1998. Having said so, ये जब हम कह रहे हैं कि विस्थापन एक सबसे बड़ा मुद्दा है जिस पर इतना ये आंदोलन चल रहे हैं, और उसके जो मुद्दे मैंने अभी गिने, उन सब मुद्दों पर लोग बहुत जोर शोर से ही नहीं, शांतिपूर्ण अहिंसक तरीके से, लेकिन बहुत ही एक कटिबद्धता के साथ मुद्दे उठा रहे हैं. Certainly within the context of the fundamental rights, बुनियादी अधिकार, within the context of the directive principles, मार्गदर्शक सिद्धांत, और जो संरचना विकास के नियोजन की संविधान ने सुझाई है, उन सबके दायरे में ये सवाल है. और इसीलिए इन सवालों को लेना, केवल सुनना नहीं तो सुलझाना, not just to be heard but to be resolved these issues of conflicts, ये हर किसी लीगल अथॉरिटी की और कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अथॉरिटी की एक जिम्मेदारी होती है, कर्तव्य होता है. तो ये देखना चाहिए कि NHRC, जबकि वो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल अथॉरिटी नहीं है, पर उनको कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल मैंडेट है, और इसीलिए ये तमाम संविधान के हिस्सों के आधार पर क्या मानव अधिकार आयोग राज्य या केंद्रीय स्तर का इन मुद्दों को सुलझाने की तरफ ले जाने में सक्षम और सक्रिय रहा है या नहीं, ये देखना जरूरी है. और जवाब अधिकांश ना आता है, जबकि ये जरूरी है समझना कि हमारे जन आंदोलनों के राष्ट्रीय समन्वय की तरफ से मैं बात रख रही हूँ। नर्मदा बचाओ से लेकर छत्तीसगढ़ का मुद्दा हो, या एनरॉन के खिलाफ का संघर्ष हो, या छिंदवाड़ा के पेंच और अडानी प्रोजेक्ट की बात हो, या उड़ीसा के विविध मुद्दे हो, या कलकत्ता के हॉकर्स और स्लम्स का एविक्शन हो, या बंबई का 90,000 घरों का डिमोलिशन, हमने जब जब बातें रखी एनएचआरसी के सामने, वो एक तो सीधे सरल केसेस के आधार पर रखी सपोर्टिंग डॉक्यूमेंट्स के साथ, और दूसरे एनएचआरसी के साथ जस्टिस वेंकटचलैया जी से लेकर राजेंद्र बाबू जी हो, जस्टिस वर्मा हो, जस्टिस बालकृष्णन हो, सबके साथ हमने बहुत गहराई से चर्चा की। मुझे याद है कि एडवोकेट प्रशांत भूषण और हम जब भी जस्टिस वेंकटचलैया जी के साथ बात करने के लिए गए थे, तो हमने उनको एक कॉन्क्रीट प्रपोजल लिखित रूप से दिया था, और ये कहा था कि इतना बड़ा मुद्दा और इसमें मानव अधिकारों की इतनी बड़ी अवहेलना, जिसमें मैं गिनूं तो राइट टू शेल्टर, राइट टू लाइवलीहुड, राइट टू एजुकेशन, राइट टू हेल्थ, राइट टू एजिटेट, ये सभी अधिकारों की पायमल्ली होती है, अवहेलना होती है। और इसलिए ये जरूरी है कि एनएचआरसी टेक्स अप द इश्यू at the national level through its state entities as well, and undertake at least investigation in depth into a sample of cases. And we also gave them suggestions regarding sectoral cases and sectoral experiences which they could have gone into, but unfortunately that did not come true. और इतना ही नहीं कि whenever with the killings in the Koel-Karo or the demolition, we went to the chairman, sir. We were heard peacefully, no doubt some of us were more senior activists, so it may be, but we realized that nothing concrete came up after those kinds of hearings in spite of our concrete suggestions. Why did it happen? One has to look into it. First and the foremost, in the issues such as displacement, one has to, whether it is an individual citizen or a legal authority or even the judiciary, they have to start necessarily with the justifiability of displacement. And that is what we always insisted upon, and that is what always all the commissions, not only NHRC, even the other constitutional authorities, more or less refuse to look into. That is my first point. And then when it is considered as justifiable, all that remains is compensation. At the most, if it is in the case of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, the Atrocities Act can be evoked, but that is never evoked by the National Human Rights Commission, unfortunately, and hence the interlinking of the acts as well as interlinking of the commissions, which is there reflected in the NHRC Act, is not reflected in either the investigation mode or the decisions and directives that they give. This is my second point to be highlighted. How could that happen? When a slum in Mumbai is demolished, and when the large population of slum belong to the Dalits and Adivasis, I think the Atrocities, Prevention of Atrocities Act could be evoked, and not only the recommendations but actions that could be followed could be based on not just the violation of human rights but violation of fundamental rights in the constitution and violation and the atrocities committed against Dalits and Adivasis. Evoking those kinds of stronger measures than even the NHRC Act would have gone a long way. We also find, sir, that when the investigation takes place, especially in terms of the displacement related issues, which I am not going into the ideological debate, but it is very clear that the investigation more often than not must take place at the site. And that is what is generally comes as the last resort. I think much happens, even issuing of the notices to the chief secretaries of the state takes place without paying a visit to the site. And hence, I must say with all humility at my command, it takes place without full and fair understanding of the holistic kind of issue. Justice Suresh is one of those justices who have heard these issues enough through the people's tribunals. Why do we have to go for people's tribunals? Because the official tribunals are not functioning up to the mark, I must say. And hence this parallel system of the people's power, people's politics, people's tribunals, etc., try and influence the commissions, but there also I must say that the reports by the people's tribunals are not given the due place and due consideration by the official NHRC, which is also my point to be underlined. As far as investigation is concerned, we find that the NHRC has more often than not IPS or IS officers to be sent to the field and to be interacting with the people, and you know their strengths and you know their weaknesses very well, and hence why not the anthropologists when the tribal issues are concerned, why not the social scientists, sociologists, or even the senior social activists? We have suggested to NHRC many a times that let there be a broad forum of the civil society organizations, groups and citizens coming from the various walks of life who would make those kind of contribution. No doubt there is an accredited panel of NGOs, etc. But this accreditation changes a lot. I think they come to be a part and parcel of that subsystem of NHRC, I must say with all humility. And hence I think that related to the particular case and the issue at hand, there should be fresh people taken in from the civil society belonging to the various disciplines, and that interdisciplinary kind of investigation, which is mostly lacking, would go a long way. I know that when the human rights issues are related not only to the laws but also to the United Nations covenants, I can give umpteen number of issues and examples under the United Nations Covenant for Economic, Social and Cultural Life. When we argued the case on the Maheshwar project in Narmada Valley or the Sardar Sarovar project in Narmada Valley, every time talking to the United Nations officials and the related corporates who are also on their panels many times, and nowadays they have made a great dent into the United Nations, we realize that those covenants are just the pieces of paper, but it is up to the NHRC when those covenants and conventions are ratified. For example, the ILO Convention 107 about the Adivasis, ratified in 1958 by the government of India, जिसमें ये लिखा है कि अगर आदिवासी को कि कुछ भी जमीन आपको लेनी है, कुछ भी साधन लेना है, तो आपको उनको उसके बदले में वैसा ही साधन देना पड़ेगा. Now it is one story of Canada where the First Nation, Second Nation kind of Adivasi communities are marked, and when their land is taken, the alternative land in length and breadth is given to them. And here thousands and thousands hectares of land is taken and some kind of compensation, or in the new act twice the cash amount or 4 times the cash amount is offered, which is not just insult of the Adivasi life and violation of the right to life, but it is also a violation of the United Nations Covenant, specifically on human rights. The preamble of the NHRC and the